Hello internet friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay or LiJo, and today we're going to be talking about INTJ Peacocks. What is happening with the INTJ Peacock process? We'll be getting into that. If you'd like to talk to me about this or anything related to your cognitive journey, you can book a video session with me below on my platform, Snug. So here we go. There's a big difference between someone just naturally going through a particular process. It's another thing for people to tell you about how great their process is and how their process, it's one thing for someone to drive a nice car, and it's another thing for someone to tell you about, have you seen all of my amazing cars? Don't you like cars too? We can talk about cars, can't we? So hear me out. You can have the same functions as another type. We all share similar functions to other types. The INTJ shares the same cognitive functions as the ESFP, which means that the same parts of our brain are working in similar types of ways, just in a different direction in terms of prioritization and responsibility. So it means that the same thing that lives in an ESFP lives in me, and if you're an INTJ, it lives in you too. So what is peacocking? A lot of you know this just from living out in the wild, but peacocking is really bringing attention to something that maybe doesn't need to be brought attention to in a way that seems unnatural and showy. And we're all doing that in particular areas through our whole life, whether we realize it or not, because the brain naturally wants to establish kind of balance, equilibrium, for the sake of our longer term survival. A lot of the problems we face in life are just our brain saying, hey, this is an unnatural place for you. You need to figure out how to do this thing so that you can survive better in the world. So at some point in the INTJ's journey, they're going to come up against the SF. What is valued in reality? And some of you have heard me talk about this before, but I remember when I was in middle school realizing one day that the girl with the locker next to mine did her hair in the morning. She brushed it and she put little clips in it. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't do that. And then I looked around and I saw other people also paid attention to what their hair looked like. And I had this moment being in middle school being like, how has this been happening around me the whole entire time and I've never noticed? So we have these epiphanies in life that relate to our lower functions, and over time we build up those things if we have a mindset that is focused on consciousness and growth. As it relates to INTJs, there is a big giveaway if you kind of listen under the surface to how they approach the SF. Now, while the SF types will naturally SF, they will intrinsically just do those SF things, the NTs, having SF functions, having the SEFI function, what the NT will do is say in their heads, I can figure out a way to be cool. I can figure out a way to do this sensory thing. I can figure it out. And that's what NT is always doing. NT is always in this process of figuring out how to do life. Whether it's SF, whether it's ST, whether it's NF, NTs are just focused on figuring it out. And as an INTJ, having that extroverted thinking, having the introverted intuition, well, your brain is kind of programmed to be like, I can figure out pretty much anything. So if it comes to something like popularity, if it comes to something like, how do I get noticed in a particular space? How do I get better at something? The INTJ, if there's something in that they want, if it's a part of some kind of goal that they have, they'll figure it out. But it's not going to be pretty or particularly natural along the way. I remember one time seeing this interview with Catherine. She's an ESFP in the OP community, and she was doing an interview on someone else's channel. And in this interview, she's sitting on a stool, drinking a glass of wine and answering questions. And I remember I was watching it live and I really wasn't even paying attention to what she was saying. I was just so in awe over the fact that she could sit on a stool, have a glass of wine, occasionally sip out of it, and also answer questions. I will never forget that picture in my mind because I was just like, how in the world is this just going okay? And the thing is she looked so natural doing it. She was just so comfortable. She was just so lighthearted. And I was just so like, man, like I wish I could just do that. I wish I could just sit on a stool with a beverage and casually answer questions and come across as natural. But the truth is like I can hardly sit on a flat floor without, tipping over. Or I can hardly have a regular, mug of liquids without spilling it, not to mention a stem of wine. And so the whole thing was just, to me, I really saw the beauty and the elegance and the coolness of SF in this moment. And I just really saw the contrast. And then I was like, well, you know what? If I really tried to like do that as an exercise, right? If I really tried sitting on stools and holding a beverage and taking sips and then talking, I would get better at it. I could eventually figure it out. And then probably at that point, I would say, hey, someone talk to me while I'm doing these things, right? Do you want to like watch, look how I can be cool, right? That is where you see the awkwardness, the peacockiness of the INTJ, right? A lot of times we're gonna work really hard to do something that we perceive as being SF cool. Because at the end of the day, our brains are trying to establish some sort of equilibrium, and it's very natural to peacock in different ways. But the thing is you're going to bring a weird kind of attention to it. You're also going to seem at some point, until you really, really, really perfect it, most of the time it's gonna look like you're really trying. And again, that's just a part of being human. We're all gonna do this in our particular areas with our particular functions. But when you're trying to be cool, guess what you're not being? You're not being cool. Or you're just gonna be weird about it. Someone's gonna call you out on something and maybe they actually like it. Maybe they like some of the SF work that you're doing. And instead of just being like, oh yeah, thanks, you're gonna be like, yeah, I worked really hard on that, and my dog, and that one time, so thank you for the compliment. Again, you have Catherine on the stool holding the glass of wine, giving her eloquent remarks, and then you have, the INTJ bringing attention to something that they think is really cool, and it's just coming across as weird, and then they spilled something. So it's like, these are the things to look at, because at the end of the day, we all have SE, we all have extroverted sensing. And extroverted sensing is going to bring attention to the spectrum of sensory. But anyone can do this. An INTJ can do this, an ISFP could do this. What you're gonna wanna look at is how responsible is this person for this thing? On the spectrum of people, is this what this person is doing all day long? Have they established a level of comfort in which this is just something that they do? Or is it something that they really work to do? Is it something that's been really hard and really been a struggle? And they figured it out. My INTJs out there, have you figured out how to be cool? Or are you still working on it? That's it for this video. I hope you learned a little bit about something as it relates to where you might be a little bit weird, or where you might be a little bit cool. I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye, internet friends.